Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are at the Cherry Pie Criterium, and I have a special guest, new addition to Team Mike's Bikes, Ryan Gorman. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. I've been looking forward to talking about this race because, unfortunately, I could not defend my win from a couple of years ago. I'm still injured, but I get to live vicariously through you guys. So we have some footage. And a real quick background on you, Ryan. New addition to the team. Super stoked to race with you here in hopefully a few weeks. You come from mountain biking, so it's funny because you're like this sleeper in the road racing scene. Suddenly last year, I was like, who is this guy? Like, always seeming to be on the podium and contesting us. And that was Ryan. So you started last year as a Category 4, is that right, on the road?
That's right. Had a ton of fun moving up through the ranks and battling some of the lower categories, and still to be racing against the big boys now.
But you have this mountain biking background. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've been riding bikes for a long time. Eventually got into motorcycles and then ran through the various mountain bike disciplines like, downhill, enduro, and then finally XC, and started competing in some of the XC races at the Cat 1 level.
So on a course like this, which we all know, Cherry Pie, for those of you who aren't familiar with this course, it is extremely technical. You must have been licking your chops looking at this course profile and thinking, oh, this whole middle part is basically just turning left and right and left and right and left and right, like no problems at all bike handling, right?
This course is awesome.
So much fun. I love it. People complain about it, but I also really lean into my bike handling skills because I don't have that crazy FTP that some riders have. And yeah, so we're going to get into that. But let's quickly just touch on the other teams here, the competition that you were looking out for. First of all, how many of us on Team Mike's Bikes?
So we had 3 in this race. It was Andrew, Jackson, and myself.
And then it looked like there was Project 74, new team. That's the specialized factory team is another way to describe them. That's the specialized boys. There were probably, there were 5 of them or something?
I think it was 4, yep.
4 of them. Performance bike, I think 2 or 3 of them. Teirun, 4 or 5 of them. Volet. You had a couple of Team California riders. Point is like, it's Cherry Pie. This is a big beginning race in NorCal. So without any further ado, let's talk about some bike racing. Pretty early on in this race. And other than some ill-fated breakaways early on, pretty uneventful first. Dude, I love this line that you're taking. I remember ripping this same line. We're going to take a whole lap through this course, by the way, because we are, we're about 20 minutes into this race, and the fireworks are about to go off. What are you thinking about? Are you trying to get in a breakaway? What's kind of your role in this race?
I could see early on that it was key to be fast through the technical section, and it's hard to do that when you're in the pack. So yeah, I was looking for a breakaway for sure.
Look, check out the wind direction and your position there. So this is breakaway skill right here. You had the inside line. I don't know why people gave it up. You took full advantage of that, and now you're identifying Drew because he is 7.5 feet tall and he's all legs in front of you, and you get sucked into the vortex of his draft. This is such a great beginning to a breakaway, and you guys committed a bunch of energy, like that whole crosswind section right there. Everyone behind's doing a ton of work. And it looks like these 2 guys in front of you are driving the pace. You're getting pulled along the coattails of Drew here, which is a great start. Do you remember, without a rear-facing camera, do you remember if you're pulling any riders with you at this point?
There was a string behind us, but there were definitely gaps opening up. I don't know how close they were, but there were some people getting shelled off the back for sure at this point.
And then we talked about this before. You just burst up to like 1,300 watts coming into this technical section. I noticed that you were diligent about being on the front during this technical section, not by accident, right?
No, there's a really fast line through this corner, but if there's someone in front of you, you couldn't always take that line. So if you're first, it solves that problem.
And it's a line, right? You can't go too abreast of these corners. Look how technical this is. You can just see out of the left. You can peep just for a second there in the corner of the screen. You could see the alarm bells going off in the field. So you now have added fuel to the flames of this breakaway, and you're starting from these little micro gaps that have established. You are now extending that gap because who's in this breakaway group with you?
I've got some of the major teams, including Project 74, Teirun, and then strong single rider with Drew.
So that's a lap. We just took a lap. I'm going to point out something else you did here that was really smart, is you're not guttering things on the left, because now that you have the major teams, you have a gap. That's one of the benefits of that hairpin at the bottom of the course, is you can see your gap on every single lap and you can see what's going on. You are allowing this space on your left because there's a ripping right to left crosswind. And you're allowing these riders to benefit from your draft because now you are working as if you're the same team. And this is what is so important in a breakaway to make it successful, is you guys are working together, even though you're eventually going to try to beat each other when the race finishes. But for now, you're all have this common goal of trying to establish the breakaway together, right?
That's right. Now we're teammates.
And it stayed this way for a while. But you guys only had, as you can see right here, maybe 8 or 9 seconds for several laps, which is tricky because if he blows out to 30, the race dynamic totally changes. If you're like inside of 10, you're really within striking distance for all these single riders who aren't happy missing the breakaway.
That's right. And it kept things functioning pretty well in the breakaway. I mean, we were giving each other shelter, rotating smoothly, and it's nice to be in a breakaway that's working well when the field is so close behind.
And it's worth mentioning at this point, teammates Jackson and Andrew are both doing the duties of catching and killing any breakaway attempts that are trying to get across, fully supporting your move here. And well, you just look at this crosswind. I mean, I can see that your bike is noticeably tilted to the right as the wind is basically pushing the wheels out from underneath you. So this is no joke. Let's fast forward a little bit, see if any of those individual riders are able to bridge across. And sure enough, a few laps later, it happens. A group of 3 ends up getting onto the back of your already established breakaway group of 4, which leads to a final selection of 7. And Miles of Project 74, former Team Mike's Bikes, former teammate rider Miles, wastes no time. This is such a smart attack by him because he's like, okay, he has 2 teammates now that bridged across for free in the draft of a solo rider who was able to make it across. And now he's thinking, I'm not going to waste any time, and I'm going to go as hard as I possibly can. But the timing of this leaves a lot to be desired. What's going on here in your mind, Ryan?
I was really glad he spent the gap, the energy to get the gap before he got into the technical section, because I kind of cruised through here to get back up on his wheel. And I was just telling myself, I want to be on his rear wheel right when we turn back into the wind, which is right here. And sure enough, there's that draft to get in down the straight.
It's your bread and butter, man. I mean, he did it into the technical section, but that's where you're going to be the strongest out of this group because of your background in mountain biking. So, yeah, great news for you. You're able to get right back on it. And now that let's talk about the composition of this breakaway again, because I feel like I just kind of glossed right over it. There's the field, by the way, what remains of it, and it's just all in ribbons now, just blown to pieces. Let's talk about the composition of this break. So we have 3 Project 74 riders, including Miles here in front of you. You and you alone on Team Mike's Bikes, Ryan. We have Drew, the 7.5 footer, Team California, and then 2 solo riders. Actually, that's not true. There's Tayrun Elite, who's made this group, and then also the 7th rider is a solo rider. I get that right?
Yeah, Travis from Tayrun, really strong sprinter. One other solo rider I didn't know, and then three Project 74 riders to deal with. So I knew we were in for some fun at this point.
I know, right? I'm so excited. So let's see how you handle this now that there are 3 riders from the same team in this group. The strategy is going to be paramount here to secure the win. Let's see how you manage it. Okay, so really early on in this group of 7, it became pretty clear that Project 74, with their numerical advantage, they were going to try to make it even more favorable for them. They wanted to get Miles off the front. They wanted to maybe shed some riders. So they kept on trying this counterattack game. But like before, you can see right here that the timing of this just wasn't great, because I feel like they kept attacking into the technical section, which you've already demonstrated, Ryan. Like, you have no problems covering those attacks, right?
That's right where I wanted to see him go off the front. So every time I was happy to chase him back through there.
And because another reason, I mean, first, you're comfortable with that with your mountain bike background, but also think about it. Like, if you're nuking it through the technical section, your teammates are also going to be kind of suffering through there. The draft isn't great through there, right? Like, if you want to like do a big attack and get a gap so it benefits your teammates, like do it in a really hard headwind section or a long straightaway section where your teammates are probably going to be taking advantage of a draft while the other guys have to chase. I don't know. Just a thought. What I think probably would have been better for Project 74, what maybe could have popped you or maybe shelled a couple of the other riders, what I think I would have done if I was in this group with 2 other teammates, making 3 of us, is I would probably wait for the start-finish straightaway, really long straight with a really stiff right-to-left crosswind like you see right here, where Miles is pulling through. But now imagine, you just finished your pull, Ryan. Now imagine if he was pegged on the left-hand side of the road with only room for his 2 teammates, and he's drilling it at like 800 watts, teammates enjoying the draft, everyone else is just fighting for themselves. Like, that would be, I feel like they would just start popping riders, and eventually they could whittle it down to maybe like 3 out of 5 instead of 3 out of 7, or even 3 out of 4. Like, I feel like that was the right game in this. And of course, I'm sitting here in a desk chair. Like, it's easy to play, to play that game in hindsight. But I don't know. I feel like that would be my approach if I was trying to coordinate this thing with teammates in order to try to pop. Like, from your perspective, you were pleasantly surprised, I'm sure, to see that they kept doing this counterattack thing in the areas of the course where you felt most comfortable.
Yeah, and there were some elements of that strategy. We were in the gutter going down the straight, but it wasn't that hard. Like, we weren't spending as much money as we would have to if they were just absolutely drilling it on the front. But they chose to spend that energy in other areas of the course.
Yeah. So anyway, long story short, it ended up kind of neutralizing itself. You can see the gap has just blown out to 40, 50 seconds or something. It doesn't matter. There's nobody left in the peloton to effectively chase that group back. So you guys had this comfortable lead. It's about 3 laps to go, and it seems like everyone just kind of turned off, and you start thinking to yourself, I'm sure, how do I win? Like, when do you start having that thought? Did it occur before this? Like, I feel like about 3 laps to go, things kind of slow down. That's when I would start thinking, okay, how do I do this?
Yeah, that was about the point that I could stop worrying about the chasing peloton and the fact that one of the Project 74 riders would come to the front anytime it would slow down too much, keep things rolling. So I got a good idea of what they were angling for, and it was pretty clear they were going to have Eric for the sprint. So they seemed like they were getting ready to tee it up for a lead out for Eric. So I had to deal with that.
Did you feel like you wanted to go toe-to-toe at 200 meters to go against Eric, who hadn't really done any work up to this point?
Yeah, I couldn't tell. It was an unknown because he was sitting in, so it wasn't something I wanted to risk.
Let's watch. I want to watch the whole last lap. Let's fast forward to the last lap. Let's see how this plays out. Okay, guys, we are entering the last lap here in a couple of moments. Yeah, it's time to start thinking about Ryan. How are you going to win this race?
So I'd moved myself into a little better position towards the back of the group. I knew I didn't want it to come to a 200-meter drag race. So I was looking for an opportunity to go somewhere in the last lap. And if it presented itself headed into that technical section, I was going to take that opportunity.
And it looks like you have the Project 74 boys taking the responsibility of setting pace on the front. It looks like you said earlier, Eric's their sprinter. He's in position. So they've made their intentions clear. And what's going on right here?
Right here, we're coming into this back straightaway with the crosswind from left to right. The right side opens up with the solo rider boxing in the Project 74 sprinter, and I just decide this is the time to hit it.
Dude, those are sprint numbers. That was like 1,400 watts sustained into that technical section, which you've shown you are so capable of. And are you looking back at this point? What's going on in your head?
I knew I had a gap from the shadows, and I just wanted to see how big of a gap I could pull through this section. And if it was big enough coming out of the hairpin, I was going to try to hold it to the line.
Look, there's just no passing through here, right? Like, how on earth could you pass? The only moments there you have in order to pedal, you have Ryan doing 1,300 watts. So there's absolutely no passing. And the way that you took those corners means that you are just stretching that gap open. So now, this is when the rubber meets the road, so to speak, is these straightaways. This is when you're in sight, there's no more corners, and it just becomes a drag race, right?
Now I got to hold this power till the finish. I'm committed.
And we can't see the rider, so they're inside of 8 seconds. We know that. There's one Project 74 rider. Looks like his job is done. Are you looking back? Like, what's going on? Do you know what gap you have?
I knew it was at least a handful of seconds, but like you said, not 8 because they were in the hairpin at the same time. But it was individual riders, so there wasn't a line of riders chasing me. So I just tried to tuck and stay as aero as possible coming through this windy section.
And head down. And just to give you guys an idea of the power here, 583 watts on this last lap, just under 2 minutes. Posting up for the win. You had time to celebrate. So stoked on your win, man. Awesome. I love that you held it down. And you continue the tradition of Team Mike's Bikes winning the Cherry Pie Criterium. Congrats. But what I was saying is, yeah, just under 2 minutes, 583. That's average power. That's not normalized, because we know that, looking back at the footage, most of that time was spent in quadruple digits, over 1,000 watts through those corners and things like that. Serious power. NorCal, look out. We have a new weapon. His name is Ryan. So great having you on the team, man. I can't wait to race with you.
Can't wait to get out there with you too, Jeff. Thanks for having me on, man.
Of course, my pleasure. Let's slap more GoPros on your bike, and let's do this more often. Talk to you guys soon.